All righty, everybody. We're on the corner of Bastrop and Preston. Well, we are finna show you the real part of Third Ward. Well, Third Ward really started back in the early 1900s. We're on the back part of downtown Houston. All right. Right there is Emancipation Avenue, which used to be Dowling. And we're going to call it Dowling because this is what it used to be back in the day when blacks first started coming to Third Ward. Right now, we're going to show you where Dowling Street turns in to Congress. And as you can see, that's downtown Houston right there. All right, now we're finna go down Third Ward because we're doing the history of Third Ward. People are asking, Booley, tell us the history of Third Ward, as you know. Okay. All right here on the corner of Dowling and Prairie. Just where blacks were staying is part of Third Ward, right here. And right up here at this sign is Harrisburg. Okay, when you go turn left on Harrisburg, now you're beginning to go to Second Ward. Now we're going straight ahead down Dowling. We're going to Third Ward. We in Third Ward. Blacks were staying on all of this here that I'm showing you all the way back to Cullen, even to Scott. And Scott back going this way is not called Scott, it's called York. All right. Now we're on the corner of Dowling and Harrisburg, and right there is Dowling and Texas. Okay, now over here, where all these condos, all this used to be blacks area, all back up in here. On Capitol Street, blacks were staying there. That is part of Third Ward, y'all. I'm telling you the real history, because a lot of people get Third Ward and Riverside mixed up. Okay, blacks were staying on both sides here. And right over here, you see the Dynamo Stadium. Okay, now that used to be Third Ward. All right, we up and down Dowling showing you Third Ward. This was Third Ward, Walker Street. Blacks were staying all up and down Walker Street on both sides going toward downtown, going towards Scott. Blacks were staying on McKinney. We're going to turn on McKinney. A lot of blacks my age will always remember McKinney because that was where Tom Cato Fish Market used to be. And all of this was black areas. All of this is part of Third Ward. Now, this is the real Third Ward, everybody. Now, y'all want to see the history? This is the history. We're going down McKinney. We can't go down it long because all of this was part of Third Ward. And as you know, there's Live Oak. And then you got Delano, which would probably be the next street. No, we got another little street that don't go through, Negro. All of this blacks was staying all back up in here. All back up in here was nothing but blacks in this part of Third Ward. Even Lamar Street, black was staying all up in Lamar, all up and down Lamar and Negro. Blacks was always up and down here, and this is part of Third Ward that a lot of people don't really realize. And Third Ward didn't go no further than Alabama. Now, blacks were staying all back up in here off of Dowling. And off of Dowling and Dallas. We on Negro in Dallas now. And there's Dowling right down the street. But I'm just showing you this area because all of this was once all black area. And it was all part of Third Ward. Now, I'm going to go down Polk Street. And Polk was the Las Vegas of Third Ward in the 40s and the early 50s. Because when I say that, to say this, because they had clubs all up and down here. They wouldn't call them clubs. They would call them little beer joints and cafes. All up and down here was nothing but clubs. All up and down here was the business section of Third Ward in the 40s and the early 50s. This is history, and I'm showing you real history because now this don't even look the same. You don't even know blacks even stayed over here at one time or another. Now we're gonna go off here until a street called Ennis and Polk, because Polk is now we're gonna go back down Polk. All right, we're going down Polk Street here to Dowling, and the reason why I'm going there because this is a very historical building. It's still there. It's owned by the Hobby family. The Hobby family is the one who bought the first television station, the first radio station, and the first newspaper here to Houston, Texas. The Hobby family right here was the old building they call the Houston Post, the first newspaper to come to Houston. That's the building right there. The Hobby family built that building. The Houston Post, the original first newspaper here. As you can see, it's telling you the Post building, a historical Houston Post building, and that was the first newspaper to come to Houston. It's the Houston Post, and owned by the Hobby family, Mr. William Hobby, the man who they named the Hobby Airport after, the man who they named the school after, the man who bought the first television station here, KPRC, and the first radio station here, KPRC 950 AM and KPRC Channel 2 on your TV station. It was right here on the corner of Dowling and Polk, a historical building that still stands there today. The Post building, the Houston Post. Now as we turn on Dowling Street, which is now Emancipation, now that's a historical building right there, that hamburger stand. In the late 40s, they came and took a lot of black neighborhoods out, because blacks were staying here on Pierce. Blacks were staying here on Jefferson. In fact, on this corner of Jefferson and Jefferson and Dowling was Miss Huckabee Funeral Home. Miss Huckabee taught over at Miller Junior High School for those who went to Miller. Okay, now when they came out here in 1948 to start building this superhighway, that's right, this is the first highway we had. We call it a superhighway. Today they call it Gulf Freeway. Then it's now called I-45 North. I'm sorry, I-45 South, which going to Galveston. This is what we used to have to get on the freeway. It wasn't no Pierce elevator. So if you wanted to get on the superhighway, which was the first freeway we had here in 1948 when it opened up, it took a lot of blacks' homes who used to stay up in here. When they bought this freeway up in here, a lot of blacks had to move out of this area up in here on Jefferson. And that happened in 1948 when they opened up the superhighway, which went from right here on Jefferson all the way to Galveston. Now blacks were staying all back up in here, and they had to move out of there to make room for that freeway to come through. Say Dowling is part of 3rd Ward, and Dowling was part of history here in 3rd Ward because all the businesses was on 3rd Ward. That's why you had the Dowling Theater that we getting ready to pass by. You had also Standard Make Shoes that was over here. And one thing that's still standing there is Wesley Chapel. Now right here on the corner of Dowling and McGowan, that's where we at. Like I say, you had the famous St. John Baptist Church, and of course you had Wolf's, and you had an after-hour liquor store they called the Alley, and then you had the Park Theater that was right next to it, and right over here you had Tyler Bobby College, where blacks could go to college, the school, to learn how to be a barber. And then over here, of course, you had Emancipation Park. And we're going right on down Dowling, and at this very corner up here, Dowling and Elgin was the fabulous El Dorado Ballroom. Upstairs, downstairs, historical building right there on that corner. Now that was the El Dorado Ballroom, and Elgin was one of the busiest streets up and down that ran through 3rd Ward. That they eventually opened it up, would run to University of Houston. But all backing up in here was black businesses. And over here was Franklin Beauty School for the ladies who wanted to learn how to be a beautician. This was right up here on the corner. And all of this was black businesses and clubs. And right over there was where Lightning Hopkins got his beginning here in 3rd Ward. They got a historical marker there. Now, this is what it's getting. Right now, we're going to the medical center for 3rd Ward. That's right. 3rd Ward had their own medical center. That's right. All right. I call it our little medical center because we had everything we wanted as far as medication was concerned. Number one, they built the Negro General Hospital here in 3rd Ward on Holman Street. And when they built the Negro General Hospital, they want to have doctors that, all of this is black, y'all. This is black. Everything is black owned, black operated, and black people supported each other back during them days. Now that church came in 1950. That's the oldest church, but it was downtown on Bell Street. But when they burned it down, or accidentally burned down, they relocated and put it in 3rd Ward, and it is Trinity Methodist Church, which is the oldest church in Houston. Now, when they was building Holman Street and Third Ward in Blacks, we went down the business section. Now we're going to the medical part of Third Ward, because up and down here was places where you could get flowers to people to put them in when they go in the hospital, and they used Holman as the first spot for black education right here in 1916 when they built Blackshear. And then right on the side over here, we're gonna go on the side, is Riverside. We call it Negro General Hospital. All right, in 1916, they built Blackshear Elementary School, which was the first building that they really built in here in Third Ward. It was here 10 years before Jack Yates got here. And then 11 years later, they wound up building us a hospital, which was Negro General Hospital, right here, right across the street from Blackshear. Like I say, Holman was a medical part of Third Ward, where people who had babies or anybody had got sick. This is where they would come, because they couldn't go to no Herman Hospital or none of the white hospitals, because they was all segregated. In 1926, 10 years later, after Blackshear opened up, when I say they, HISD, built the first black high school here in Third Ward in 1926 of February. And the original Jack Yates, 2610 Elgin, with the principal James D. Ryan. How about that, man? This is history, man. And when they built this in 1927, the Negro General Hospital, Blackshear was getting so crowded, and they decided to build another elementary school in Third Ward, and it was called Douglas. Douglas opened up in 1927, the same year that the Negro General Hospital right here opened up in. All of those used to be apartments, but they wasn't, blacks couldn't stay there. They was all white folks' apartments back then. This is what blacks would have the cutoff right here when Mr. Sterling built this subdivision, which is called Canfield Oaks, which is Dr. Bowie, which was a real famous black doctor here in Houston. And as we go down to Canfield Oaks, you can see this is my neighborhood before we moved on McGregor. That's my good friend, Mr. Jerry Shepard, his home, and he's trying to make a historical landmark here in Houston, because this is the first black subdivision in Houston. And later on, they built another subdivision, but it was on the north side, and it was called Pleasantville. And as you can see, the blacks are still keeping up this property here in the 3400 block of Route. And Canfield Oaks ran all the way to Canfield. It was just a one-block deal, and it ran from Towwest to the Holman, and it covered the 3400 block of Rosewood and also the 3500 block of Route. And it was dead end right here. Right here was a bunch of woods and stuff that ran all the way back through to University of Houston. But this is part of Third Ward that was annexed in later on in the early 50s, because in the 40s and the 30s, Third Ward ended at Alabama. Bottom line. And then later on in the 40s, they built Texas Southern. Right now we're on Rosewood, 3500 block of Rosewood. And one thing about Ruth, it had houses on both sides. Ruth had houses on both sides, but Rosewood only had houses on one side, which are the even numbers. They didn't have odd numbers on Rosewood. But on Ruth, they had odd numbers and even numbers. And that's the 3500 block of Rosewood. And it went right here to Towwester. And in the 40s, they built Texas Southern. As soon as Texas Southern was built, they opened up and started. Mr. Sterling came and designed this place called Canfield Oaks, which you just got going down.